call the roll. Bob Earhart. Absent. John Coya.
Here.
John Ludendorff.
Here.
Rachel Arco. Carrie Eduvina.
Here.
John Beard's here. We have a quorum. Let's go to approval of the minutes from the May 20th, 26th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call. Bob Earhart is absent. John Coya.
Aye.
John Ludendorff.
Yes.
Rachel Rockwell.
Aye.
Carrie Eduvina.
Yes.
John Beard's aye. New business, we have concept presentation. For a PMC self-storage facility, the applicant Phil McAllister, location southwest corner Division Drive and Wheeler Road. And we're gonna let Danielle take off with this right now. All right?
Okay, so we have been contacted by Mr. McAllister. He is interested in the property located off of Division Drive, sitting behind Aldi. The property is currently vacant land that is zoned M1 light manufacturing. It's approximately 6.5 acres. This site is part of an existing PUD that is very old. The proposed use that Mr. McAllister has is a self-storage facility, and that is a permitted use within that PUD. In order to move forward, the project must complete the concept process and then obtain final PUD approval. This process will include preliminary and final engineering of the site and determining stormwater detention requirements and how to meet them. And Mr. McAllister is here to present on the site.
All right, well, thank you guys all for letting me come talk to you in this field here. My name is Phil McAllister. I live in Naperville, Illinois, real estate developer. I don't have a large business, you know, not a big time developer or anything like that. I like to have my experiences in the real estate industry, and I try to do one or two really good projects a year. It's kind of what I'm targeting doing, and I think Sugar Grove really needs a nice self-storage facility today. So I was made aware of this piece of land and started digging in, and got pretty excited about it. So yeah, just kind of why this project, why this site, why I picked it. We'll go through all the details a little bit more, but Sugar Grove is pretty undersupplied for self-storage. There's really no self-storage facilities anywhere in the general area. You know, you've got the one sort of in the industrial park if you keep going west a ways on 56, but that's sort of off of the main drag and not easily found. So with the growth in the Grove and Settlers Hill that's coming in, Settlers Ridge, was it? Yeah. There's going to be an even bigger need when those come in, but even not factoring that in, there's the metrics that we look at are pretty sparse for storage. So I think it's definitely a needed product. In terms of the benefit to the village, we'll get into that more as well. Obviously, property taxes don't go directly to the village necessarily, but the fact that a project like this can bring in, call it $80,000 in property taxes, really helps the schools out, makes the schools more desirable, and doesn't put any sort of strain on the community, no strain on the schools, very little traffic. So net benefit there, and then I think just activating that parcel that's kind of been sitting back there vacant for quite some time, I think it's a great benefit for the city. So if we go to the next slide. So the way that you can typically think about, you know, the demand for self-storage is that one of the metrics that we use is called a saturation ratio. Basically, you're just taking the number of square feet of storage in a given area and dividing that by the number of people in that area. And the lower that ratio is, the more in-demand storage is. Typically speaking, you might say right around 8 square feet of storage per person in a, call it a 3-mile radius, is what you would consider a balanced market, or a market that, you know, is sort of in the middle. And Sugar Grove is at about 2.5, so that implies that there's about 80,000 square foot shortage of storage in the area, and that's before considering all the new people that are going to move in with the new developments. And the other thing to think about is, you know, I know there are a lot of senior housing residents in that particular area and some projects around there. Senior housing is a really big user of self-storage. A lot of times somebody will downsize into a senior housing facility and they don't want to lose all of their stuff, so they tend to use that quite a bit. So being pretty close to those senior housing facilities, I think, would be a great amenity for those residents. Next slide. So I call it free money for local schools. You know, I got a tax estimate for this, and it's gonna pay around $80,000 or $90,000 in property taxes. And like I said, that's gonna go, you know, mostly to the schools, obviously, but self-storage facilities are very quiet. You know, once it's stabilized, you might get 4 or 5 people a day kind of coming in and out for their stuff. Obviously, no new students coming in, but being able to kind of add some funding to the local schools, I think is a great benefit, and just, you know, benefits the village as a whole to kind of have that extra funding. So, and then, you know, productive use for this land, as far as I can tell, it's been vacant for quite some time. There's been some ideas, you know, this PUD and some things going on, but nothing's been able to really activate that. The way that, you know, the retail industry is going right now, people really aren't going into these sort of back lot sites where you don't get the visibility or the traffic counts. So there's really, you know, unless you want to get some sort of heavier industrial use, there's not a lot of other uses that make a ton of sense back there, I think, for the modern environment that we're in right now. So I think that this is a really great opportunity to take that piece of vacant land and you know, make it something productive for the village. And then one of the things that I always try to talk about or harp on is that, you know, a lot of people have this idea of self-storage and what it's gonna be like, and they picture these sort of ugly metal sheds and gravel roads and, you know, chain link fences and those sort of things. And that's not the way that they're built anymore. We try to build really high quality facilities. We'll get into some of the pictures, but nice architecture, a really nice landscaping plan, you know, fencing, you know, non-see-through fencing, using kind of glass on the facade, making it look like really nice buildings. The office area would rival the way a retail building would look in a lot of ways. At least on the kind of the front where people are gonna be able to see it. Very well secured, you know, fencing, controlled access, gates, well lit, all that stuff. And then it's a quiet neighborhood. I mean, once it's up and running, if you ever kind of check out a self-storage facility, they're usually just very quiet, handful of people in and out, so no real disturbance from that front. And then just a couple of pictures. The picture on the left is just one of the nicer looking facilities out there that's just to kind of give you a general idea. And then the picture on the right is a project that I have worked on in Plainfield. My partners and I recently built that. It's about 60% leased up as well, so you can kind of see high quality look to it, good feel to it, and that would be sort of a similar look to what I would plan on doing here. And then here's sort of a concept site plan. Right now it's very basic, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what it would look like. We have to obviously get the engineering done and figure out how much water detention we need, but the general idea would be to do sort of 3 sections, which are 6 buildings each, but they kind of come in a module where 2 buildings go with a covered drive aisle. So it's really considered a premium product because you're kind of giving a drive-up covered climate-controlled unit for the residents. So people can stay out of the elements and have a nice climate-controlled unit without having to go up elevators or walk down long hallways or anything like that. So most, if not all, of these units will be drive-up access, or you know, there may be one hallway down the middle that you have a few interior access, but all 1 story and kind of a very premium product from that standpoint. It would be roughly 75,000 feet of rentable square footage area, depending on the ultimate engineering and how things lay out. That would be the rough plan there. And then just a few more. These are the pictures of our existing site that we just built in Plainfield, so you can kind of see the thoughtfulness that went into the landscaping, all of those, you know, the rows of bushes and then the row of trees going along the road there. That'll all kind of grow and mature over time as well, provide more shade and more greenery. And then you kind of see the quality of the building, the materials there as well. And then if you go to the next one, this will kind of give you some ideas of how the fencing looks. You know, high quality paved, access, no gravel, nothing like that. And then here's a look at sort of the outdoor drive-up units and how those look. Again, kind of clean, nice, all single story. And then we'll have loading docks or similar where people can drive right up through, stay out of the elements, and unload other stuff from that perspective. So at the end of the day, and I think it makes a ton of sense. Sugar Grove really needs it. There's a shortage right now, and I think it would be a great project for the village, and that's why I'm attracted to it. So I'd love to hear your questions or any thoughts you guys have.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Are there any impacted party members here?
This is just a concept presentation, so we don't need to go through all that, you guys can just discuss and ask Phil questions
Okay.
and, yep.
Okay, so, we'll cross-examine now, have questions, okay, remind the board that, we only wanna ask questions to get answers, and then we'll have our board discussion after that, so we can
And-
fire away with questions to Phil.
I want to also remind you all that this is a concept presentation, so no engineering, none of that stuff has really been delved into too deeply yet.
Okay.
It's just kind of getting feedback from, looking for feedback from you all, if you like the idea for him to move forward and
Okay.
suggestions you might have.
Have you had any, interaction with the subdivision behind you?
Nothing yet, no, nothing in particular. I have considered, you know, from an impact perspective, obviously you have that little nice wooded area there that already provides a little bit of a buffer, but then we would also have setback and some landscaping along that edge, and then fencing going along there as well.
And then back behind to the west there, where you're coming up against the path, you're looking to put a chain link fence in?
No, no chain link, it would be all kind of from the photos that we saw, either wood or white vinyl.
I was just wondering if you would end up having problems, because that's pretty dark through there. And it's, even to the homes, that path is pretty well quiet. I'm just wondering if you're gonna have lighting or something there to keep that illuminated so that you can prevent theft and break-ins.
Yeah, when we design our sites, we ultimately have a whole security review. We have our security camera company come in and they can look at it from all angles, and then we do lighting around the whole building, and we'll do light poles if we need to, so that we have enough visibility on all angles of the property, and then we have 24/7 monitoring of all the cameras and alarms and all that stuff.
And you're looking to have how many units?
It would be somewhere in the 500 to 700 range. It would depend on our ultimate unit mix in terms of the size of them. If we want to do more kind of 5x10s or more 10x20s, depending on where the market is at.
And then you're going to have, somebody stationed in the office between 7 and 7 or something?
Something along those lines, yeah, kind of typical office hours might be 6 or 7 in the morning to 7 or 8 at night. And then there will be 24-hour access to the renters, but it's all gated and controlled, so you can only get in with a gate code, and we can track who comes in, and we have to use the code to get out too.
Do you contract what goes in and comes out of those units in the way of what's stored in them?
We don't track the specific items, but we have rules in place that limit what you can have in there. You can't have anything flammable, you can't have anything, anything that's alive. You can't conduct any business out of them. It has to be what's called dead storage, so just things that are not, volatile, not chemical, nothing like that you can bring in and bring out.
So does that eliminate somebody taking it and using one of those sheds as a, storage for a vehicle?
You can store a vehicle, yeah. Typically, you're allowed to store a vehicle. You can't work on the vehicle like a mechanic or anything like that, but if you're a landscape contractor or something and you wanna park your work truck or something along those lines, you can do that and kind of come and go with it.
So if I'm a swimming pool type person, can I put chemicals in there? Such as, chlorine, those kind of chemicals that it can be combustible?
If they're combustible, no. And it's a pretty blanket rule that anything that's combustible and that can create a gas or anything like that is banned. There's a list that I could have the management company provide that will give you the specifics of it. But I would guess that anything along those lines would not be allowed as a permitted use.
And then you check on them for, vacancy every year or something?
Yeah, well, we track tenants, they're monthly rental payments, so we'll know, we track every single unit on a monthly basis, and we'll know what's vacant, what's not. If at any time anybody leaves, the unit gets inspected, we check that everything's been cleared out, we check the operating of the doors, put a new lock on, all that kind of stuff.
And then what do you do for disposables, such as somebody wants to get rid of a couch or something? Do they take it off premises, or do they leave it in a location for you to take care of? How does that work?
They are supposed to be responsible for throwing anything away that's theirs, and they're supposed to take it off location and dispose of it the way that you probably should. In practice, every once in a while, if somebody wants to leave their unit anyway and stop paying, they might just leave some stuff, and that's a management issue, just like if a tenant did that in an apartment or something.
And so how would you guys handle that?
We have dumpsters on site that are fenced off and they're for management only, so we have certain capacity to get rid of that stuff right away, and if there was anything big like a couch or something, we would call somebody else to just get it right away, so that we can keep the property looking nice.
And what about contraband?
Well, obviously, it's, you know, it would be a banned use, so we would have, when they sign the lease, they agree not to bring that stuff in, and then we have security measures in place, so we have the cameras that can see all corners of the property, and we have the gates. So anytime somebody comes in through the gate, we know about it. So if there was any sort of, somebody's always coming in at 2 a.m. every single day or something, we would probably pull up the security footage and look at it and see if it was, you know, if there's any reason why. Maybe it's a company that has a 24-hour shift and we can say that that's okay, but if anything's suspicious, we would just call the police right away and make sure they had a chance to come look
So
at it.
in your leases, do you tell the renters that at any time, if you feel the need or there's something suspicious, you can go in at any time and search or look it through the materials to make sure it's all, I'm sure it's tricky.
It's tricky. You would need to go through the police and get a judge
Okay.
to give you a warrant to search it because
Yeah.
it's locked.
Okay.
They're allowed to like lock it with their own lock if they want to, so it's considered theirs. But it's like anything else. If the police saw somebody going in and out of a house in a suspicious manner and a judge said, yeah, we want to go check that out, you can get that same warrant. Go look for it.
In your
Whatever.
experience, is this an issue?
No, no, it's never been an
Your-
experience in any of our locations. I mean, we focus on areas like this. You know, median incomes are pretty strong here, housing values are strong here, they're generally good people here that you don't expect to see a lot of that from. We don't, we don't own a lot of stuff in the rough.
How many units do you, right now, control, just them 2 that you showed, or?
So this project that I have is the first project that I'm one of the part owners of directly, and then I also work with a large real estate company called Inland out of Oak Brook, if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
And with them, we've purchased probably around $1.5 billion to $2 billion, so a lot of experience in kind of understanding these properties.
I guess I would be concerned if you're saying there are no flammable materials or combustible, but you allow vehicle, that would, to me, that's kind of counterproductive. Vehicles can leak, so I guess, would we have any guideline in terms of, or is there any way to monitor that? Because I would be concerned about a work vehicle being in one of those that, with a leak and, you know, that could be a hazard at some point, so.
A motorcycle or a mini bike, I would say would probably be more prevalent and found in there than even a car.
But if it's light industrial, right? That's part of the package.
Is there ventilation in these so that any gases that may be contained can escape?
Yeah, in the climate control units, there's an HVAC system that'll circulate that air and kind of your typical kind of HVAC unit in your house is very similar to that process with the venting that goes through.
Each room, each unit have drains?
No, no drains in the units, and it's you think about it almost like a neighborhood where people are parking cars in their driveways. You know, you may get a little leak or an oil thing here or there, but it's not going to be the type of thing where you're going to have massive amounts of fluid kind of spilling out all the time or anything like that.
So not all units are climate controlled.
In this project, all of them would be climate controlled.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you're really getting a lot of is you'll get contractors that want to store their materials, flooring and things there so they don't warp. People that want to store furniture and artwork and things that are made of wood, all that kind of stuff.
So the unit you're looking to put up, what's the closest one in the area that would resemble it? Is that the one over on 30?
There is one, if you go west on 56, and then there's an industrial park on the south side of the road back in there. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there's one back in there that's probably the closest one.
Okay.
That would be like a considered competitor here, but there's really nothing close by that would be what you would consider institutional grade. So, you know, public storage, extra space, CubeSmart, that type of quality. That would be more like what this project is, and there's really nothing close by that's anything like that.
This is a national brand coming in, or is it a private brand?
Most likely it'll be another CubeSmart. So we partner with CubeSmart on another deal. They're very, obviously very high level. We know what they're doing, so we've had a good partnership with them on the property management side.
What's the fire protection protocol that you have? Do you have sprinkler systems? Do you have?
Yeah, we would work with your fire department and make sure that we're completely covered on that front. On this one,
From a sprinkler system standpoint?
yeah, we'll do sprinklers where it's needed. You know, depending on what the rules are and how big how many square feet you need before you can put one in. But whatever the standard is, we'll make sure it's fully covered.
So for me, do you have anything, Karen? I agree with you, this is needed. of course, my concern is, through that entire corridor, everything is brick. This, this project is, would be located directly behind probably our prettiest building in our entire town, which is the bank. And this is very industrial looking for me in this space. When you go down to Jimmy John's, when you go to Aldi, when you go down to the Northwestern, medical spaces, it's top to bottom brick. So that's that entire corridor. So for me, it doesn't, I love the project. If we can get it all brick, for me, it totally works. An aerator would need to be put into that pond, and I don't know about, the fencing. I mean, we don't allow wood, so the
We
open
allow wood.
face,
We do allow wood fencing.
well, again, back in the corridor, everybody's got the open face black fencing. Again, for security, if you're using really high, nice material, like this CubeSmart, like in the Carolinas, they do everything brick with awnings, and it looks stunning. I agree with you, there's a big need for it, and this is a great location. That would be my feedback, is it does not match the corridor.
Your fencing would be solid though, is what you were saying.
I was planning on solid, but if you
Sure.
guys want something else, then it works from a security standpoint.
No, I'm
happy
just
to-
asking what you're thinking, because then for me, brick doesn't matter, if you don't see it anyway.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's kind of the idea, is to do fully non-see-through fencing with the landscaping in the front, and then as those trees kind of continue to mature, you get less and less visibility, and it just kind of looks like a nice little.
But when you drive behind that corridor from one end to the next, it's all fencing, that's composite, doesn't really flow with the rest of the corridor, my opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody else might disagree with that.
I wouldn't have a problem with not all brick in there, as long as it's a quality material. It can be complementary in there, it is all brick in there, but, as you said, but I wouldn't mind it being a contrasting material, as long as it was of high quality, so that it had that same quality feel that the other buildings have in that corridor.
What would that material be, Jim? That you would think would be a good complement?
Some kind of composite.
Yeah, no, I would probably shy away from a siding material, but, metal panels, that have a more of a, maybe more of a contemporary or modern look to it, as opposed to a metal siding look. I'm not thinking like metal siding.
I'm gonna say the one over on bypass 30, I think is rather nice, that one they put up over there by the Holiday in there.
Yeah. But
You weren't talking
something
about-
where it has the quality level that we're seeing in the area right now. Cause the brick is, obviously high quality in that area, we would wanna have that same kind of character of this building, even if it wasn't a brick material.
I would say the seam side, the front side, I can see being brick, and I can see the rest of it not having to be brick. The fascia, kind of given the detail, it doesn't have to be all brick, but just kind of have it fit in with the area.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that would make sense if we did, maybe this building here, this will be set back obviously, because the ponds, you'll have a nice sort of visual here anyway. But maybe if this side of this building, because you'll have the office here, so that'll look like the pictures with the glass,
Yeah.
and that'll look nice. And then maybe this side here could be a little bit more brick and the nice material, so that the aesthetic kind of flows that way, but maybe some of these.
And these on the ends here, also, with that are coming into the street.
Yeah, anything street facing.
Yeah, down here, like the front.
But I do understand that that's another one, 2 lots right there.
Mhm.
So I could give them the bypass because of the simple fact, something else is gonna be
Behind
covered
the
in the future.
fence.
Yeah.
That no one's gonna see it.
Yeah, everybody has to decide if they want a solid fence going down that way.
I just think, my bottom line would be to kind of match the quality level of the buildings that are already there
Right.
in some manner.
Yeah.
So leave it that general, but, leave it up to your team to put together a concept package of exteriors that we would feel would match the level of what's
Because
there.
even Hartman, all of those buildings out there are all brick or
Yeah.
stone of some
They
sort.
are beautiful.
I would
Yeah,
have,
makes sense.
I would have to say that, the aesthetics, I think you're pretty much on the same page as to what we're looking for. I think that's certainly a couple of plays down the road before we even get get into serious discussions about that, but, that will happen, and at least you have a basic idea of now what our concerns are and, some remedies to that. Okay, so I can tell you a couple of things. My company has been next door neighbors to a CubeSmart for the last 5 years. I can tell you that, they've been fantastic neighbors. They've helped us out as we've helped them out. We keep some of our cars in there, okay, and that's no different than, you know, I mean, you look in your neighborhood, how many garages have you seen since you've lived there catch fire because of them? You know, so it's a very low probability. The sprinkler systems are key. You're gonna have to maintain whatever the code is. Okay, I can tell you this, security has actually been better. We're in Cicero, tough neighborhood. Security's actually been better because of all the cameras, okay? In fact, the police on several occasions have come to CubeSmart for help in solving issues that didn't even have anything to do with CubeSmart, but they were in the camera view. Okay, so they've been very, like I said, they've been top notch, good protocols, nice design, and really, I've never, I mean, I'm there 10 hours a day sometimes, and I rarely even notice anybody coming in and out. I mean, I know that they are, and I'm probably not paying attention, but it's not, you know, it's not an issue. It's mostly, these days, you know, it depends on the area, okay? So in Cicero, you're gonna have more folks keeping their, personal goods, okay? Out here, you're gonna have cars, you're gonna have tractors, you're gonna have anything that can't fit in the single car garages or 2-car garages, okay? I'd also say this, with the influx of population that we're inviting already with the, residential construction that we're proposing and is already starting, you see it on Galena. I agree with Rachel, this is desperately needed, and you can't grow healthy without having storage, pure and simple, so, I love your idea.
Yeah, me too.
The only other question I would have, if you could align your entrances with the existing ones across the street.
Probably, I'm trying to just, so like the one for the Aldi here,
Right.
this one's probably a little bit, this isn't the exact boundary line, but this might be a little below, where our property cuts out, but maybe we could do this one. And,
Right.
and probably this one, yeah.
Because what I was looking at, you're not 100% sure of the size of your detention pond.
Correct.
And what I'm looking at is you could probably, hopefully shift to the north a bit and then have that align with, that Neely Chapel entrance.
Yeah, that's definitely doable, yeah, and even if.
Cause
even
then
if we
it
did the regional
makes
street there.
parking on both sides just a little better than the turning radiuses and that are gonna be there for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a good point, Sean. The fencing,
Mhm.
where are the fencing lines? Is this the green? Cause then we can't see the retention pond.
Yeah, in this case, effectively, we would have the fencing kind of this dotted line, and then you'd have the landscaping buffer in the setback. But again, if we wanted to take this top half and do black see-through metal fencing, so you can see the detention pond, and have this be the non-see-through portion, we can do that as well.
Okay.
I guess one of my concerns would be the maintenance of the retention pond. I know there's a challenge at the Walgreens retention pond, always seems to have some challenges there. So just in terms of, and that one has railings on it and everything there, so, just when you look at your concept, how you plan to look at the maintenance of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna want a fountain in there, there's gonna be the pump and those kind of things that we'll have to
Yeah.
upkeep.
And do you, one question would be, do you put the retaining bond in, retention bond in the fence or leave it outside of it?
It's gonna be dry.
Yeah, that's a good point too, we could theoretically just work the fence around to kind of
That's
L-shape.
a question, so that it's visible from the public and
Mhm. Yeah, that kind of thing is perfectly, fine with me.
something to think about.
Whatever
It-
makes the most sense.
Shown here is, water filled. John is saying that it'll be dry.
That is something for the engineers that they'll
Oh,
determine,
I
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just kind of letting you know.
Yeah, there's a good chance that it could be a dry.
So then weed control and all that would be important in terms of how it is.
Mhm. Yeah, it's another benefit of going with a management company like CubeSmart, they're really on top of everything. If they do anything like that, it's slow.
And I'm gonna take it, they shouldn't be that noisy, no more than somebody opening up their garage door, or somebody having a radio playing, so the folks in the back, the homeowners aren't going to be, concerned, or having the light shining down and things like that, correct?
Correct, yeah, anything on that side will be obviously pointed down and you can shade it away from any of the houses back there. If there's any particular, house that's just the way it lines up, you can kind of see through the trees really easy and they don't want a light, we'll just figure that out, we'll put a pole on the other side so the light can shine down.
And now the next question, your 24-hour cameras you're gonna have, nothing is going to be, spotted on somebody's back of the house or back of their yards, it's all going to be contained within the premises of your property, correct?
I would imagine so, yes, we can make sure that happens as well. And when I'm looking at that site, I don't think any of the residential will really be an issue, maybe some, those couple of houses that would be close by. But we'll make sure that however that lays out, that they know that we gotta keep that on our lines.
I think a light study would be good to have to make sure that the light is, especially with the neighbors to the west, that the light is shining in and wholly, so we don't have light pollution on any of the sides there, that would be great to see that.
Well, you're gonna be questioned on that eventually anyway, so.
Right, yeah.
Because somebody's gonna come in
All of the.
with that concern, and it's legitimate.
All of the, access roads in there, everything's paved, correct?
All page, yeah.
Now, the one thing I noticed you don't show any visitor parking out front of the office.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but basically this little white section here is, 7 or 8 parking spots right outside
Okay,
the office
okay.
there, yeah.
And this is what this little box, like the really cool looking part of the
I
entire.
think it's gonna look to the one more to
Project?
the right.
Yeah, that would be this corner here.
Right, but this, it's just that small, everything else is just very industrial.
Yeah, right, it would be, this corner here, maybe we push it back a little bit, but that would be the main point. And then what we can do sometimes is we'll do, kind of a similar thing on like this corner here, so that both sides kind of look like that, it doesn't kind of look into.
So is your office area going to be elevated so you can see from the upstairs, deck, the whole premises?
Yeah, it'll be a single-story office, but it'll be built up a little bit higher just for kind of marketing purposes, but there won't be anybody get up there.
Okay.
So it says single story, but this looks like it's 2-story.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we would do here, that's single-story as well, but the corner there is elevated up, and then it's built to look like 2-story, just as an aesthetic.
Yeah, no, that part I like, but it's just everything else. The project itself is single story, cause this looks like it's 2.
No, that's actually single-story, yeah.
Okay, it's very tall.
I mean, there's not an observatory, but you can get some view when you have the employee there.
Yeah.
That, of the premises. Now, I don't recall, I've been in there before, is there, some screens that filter the cameras? Are there some security screening, screens in the office?
Oh, yes, the office has the manager will have the screen up, and there'll be,
Yeah.
probably 3 or 4 monitors, and every camera's on there, and he can zoom in and check out which one he wants to look at.
What's the largest truck that can go in there to load into these units? You can't bring a moving man there. correct?
No, nothing like that. The biggest unit we're likely to have here is a 10 by 20, or sometimes we'll do a 12 by 20, so they're a little bit wider, so that people can get in a little bit more of a work truck.
Okay.
But it would be heavy duty pickups,
Okay.
maybe like one of those smaller kind of plumbing vans that you see that are almost like a minivan. that kind of stuff, but no big moving vans, no big trucks, things like that.
I'm sure somebody's gonna try.
Can't fit in the unit, they'll have a hard time leasing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. Again, for me, it's just about fitting in with everything else that's over there and having the higher end materials where it's not, like, doesn't look super industrial and is really high end.
Yeah, I think there's some things we can do there.
Okay.
But it is a, relatively, it's sort of a blend between retail and industrial in the sense that it's built like industrial, but you have retail customers, just kind of regular people and that kind of thing. So from an economic perspective, going full brick changes the cost of the whole time. So we have to kind of figure out a happy middle there, but I think there's plenty of options we can kind of run by and make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, like this is really kind of fun, like if you did on the bookends with more windows, and then if there's more windows than brick, and then on your structures, it's more, I don't know what material John's thinking, and to me, this is very industrial. But if you have another material for this, I don't know.
Yeah, we could probably, well, what we could do is maybe go halfway up with some sort of stone veneer or something like that to make it look a little nicer. Or there are some cast panels that you can put up.
Yeah, see what your design team might say.
Kind of play around with it a little bit and try to make it a little more cost effective.
How tall are the buildings, not counting the office building, how tall are the units?
Probably around 12 feet typically.
And how tall is the fence for the,
The fence at the other property is 8 feet, so you will see.
so you're gonna see about 4 feet of the building.
So roughly, yeah, depending on where you're at, the road and everything.
And the
Do you
flat
wanna,
plate.
do you think we wanna pull, does everybody like the idea of a full faced fence instead of the open faced? That's the other
I think
question.
it looks too confined to, if it's, I don't like the complete solid, only that's just my
Me too.
opinion.
Me
I
too.
just think it looks, too, penitentiary-like,
Yeah,
for lack
I
of a
agree.
better
I
analogy.
agree.
Well, I think it's easier to maintain a steel fence, especially with the open. It gives you the ability to see in there, the
Yeah.
police or whoever's patrolling,
I think so too.
to stop the shenanigans, let's say, of what could happen in there.
It just looks more open and cleaner.
Yeah, how do you maintain the grounds inside, so people they're storing their items in the buildings, but do you have times when people are throwing their stuff in the corner, like, how do you deal with that stuff? If you were to have open fencing, you're looking in, we would expect to see just the buildings
Yeah.
in a row and nothing else in there.
Yeah, so we don't allow anybody to put anything that's not in their unit, and if there is anything collecting like that, we'll get it taken out right away. The managers, at least twice a day, if not more, are walking the entire property and checking out everything. And if there's small stuff that they can just get themselves, they will, and if they need to call somebody out, we tell them, you have full discretion to just get people out for maintenance issues and stuff right away.
My situation isn't while it's occupied, mine is, late evening, where some kid is going to possibly cut through, the wood fence, go back there and do some shenanigans or whatever. This way here, if it's open, I think the, police and the people passing by have a better chance of helping secure your, grounds as well as the cameras.
For me personally, I would say like if it was open facing on all 3 sides and then composite 8 foot that backs up to the woods, that would make sense. And maybe from a financial perspective, security perspective, you're backed up to the woods, probably better to have an 8 foot full composite, full panel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think we're asking them to do the exterior and complement to buildings across the street that we wanna see them. So
I
we
agree.
want the open fence.
So are you looking to fence in the pond? Because I believe it's going to be a detention pond like everything else around the area, which is gonna be,
That's true.
which is going to be a dry grass, area. Is it easier for you to maintain being open and not fenced? Or would you like it fenced? It don't matter to me, I was just trying to throw out that possibility.
I think it'll be within the open face fencing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, interchangeable to a large extent. If it's gonna be dry and it needs to be mowed, we're probably gonna be using a service, so to the extent that they can get it out, get it taken care of, it probably doesn't really matter to us.
Because I don't know of any pond that they have in that area, except when you go to the big subdivision across the street. And that's why I'm taking it as a detention.
I would say just a couple things, you know, right now, the status quo here in Sugar Grove is that if you really want storage, you know, you can go buy Heartland over there, and where we have all that, and, you know, you can buy a unit and plunk down $90,000, you know, and you're gonna have a unit that is probably twice the size as you could rent. But, you know, the reality is, there's a lot of you know, we're trying to welcome business into this. And with storefront, retail stores that basically have, you're gonna have to utilize just about every square inch of that retail space. You're not gonna have a lot of room for stores, so we really need it. Secondly, John, I think to your, concern, CubeSmart has a reputation in the marketplace that with the cameras and everything that they have from a security standpoint, you gotta be a real dummy to even try to do anything there.
I have seen it done.
Oh, well, no, I've seen it done, but I'll tell you, you know, again, being in one of the worst areas in Chicago land, arguably, we haven't, seen any issues next door, so we're doing, you know, I think you're pretty wise to the game. So.
Yeah, I don't have a preference on fencing personally. You know what you're doing, you own a business already, so I look forward to seeing what you bring us in the future and what you think is best for your company.
Storage buildings, are they flat roofs or are they pitched roof?
Generally slightly pitched, just the flat roofs are a little hard to maintain and can leak a little bit easier, so they'll have a gentle pitch to them.
Okay.
Do you need a vote?
No.
All we need is,
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, really appreciate
We're
you guys.
excited that you're here.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck with everything.
Appreciate it.
well, this will be going to
Isn't
the
there-
village board.
Okay.
Isn't there some form of recommendation or anything like that?
What's that, same place?
I think it was just discussion. The developer just wondering some of the feedback things.
I think so.
Okay, we had it.
Maybe if I need to send a few more ideas for building materials, I'll do that just to have. Cool, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you. So now we can open up for discussion now?
Well, that kind of was
We
your
don't need to do
discussion,
anything?
yep, that was,
Okay.
yeah, the
Feel
concept
kinda empty,
presentations are
feel
kind of
kinda
very.
empty not being able to vote on anything. Come on, we gotta vote on something.
You will.
To adjourn, right?
Right.
Well, I have a conversation that I wanna talk about with
Can I
trustee
ask-
Lindy.
You have a question, John? What type of fencing does the CubeSmart in Cicero have?
They have open, it's an open, and I think for that very same reason that John brought up, is that, and it's easier to make, you know, it's easier to fix when somebody bangs into it.
You don't get your PD if it's open.
And you don't get that, and
Not
it's
the food.
easy to
I was
replace a
wondering,
section.
Sugar
Yeah.
Grove.
It's easy to replace it.
It just opens up the.
Yeah, 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe.
You guys, we shouldn't be continuing this discussion since the applicant's gone, so.
Okay.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, so we're done.
Yeah. Oh, is this open?
So we're closed with this discussion on this presentation. Any old business?
No.
Any comments from any commissioners or any information?
I have something that I wanna discuss when everybody else is done, that I had a conversation with trustee Lindy.
Okay.
When everybody else is done.
Okay, I have nothing.
John?
Nothing.
Good, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So before the meeting, at last night's trustee, board, at the village board meeting, it was discussed, this conversation about ordinance enforcement regarding retail, commercial. Are you the attorney that goes to the village meetings?
No.
Okay. Okay. So obviously, when we discuss ordinance enforcement with retail, with HOA, We originally had said, once the annexation agreements expire, which is every retail space in every community in all of Sugar Grove, is there a type of enforcement that the village can attach itself to legally to be sending out these letters? And I guess Heidi wasn't sent, the statute regarding HOA. And so I think that it's important to understand what that statute is. It seems like it might be attached to retail, but there's question if it's really anything from a state perspective, giving municipalities any authority to do anything with HOAs. So she hasn't seen a statute. So I think we need to understand what the statute is to ensure that we're not sending letters out when we don't have any true legal authority to be sending letters out. So it was kind of a lengthy conversation.
So
If there is no HOA letters, let's just pretend like you guys cannot do anything from an HOA perspective, but you can retail. I'm just gonna interrupt you for 1 second, Tammy, cause I wanna finish what I had said to Heidi while I'm thinking of it. We need to figure a way, if the village has requirements for a builder or anybody to come in as far as standards for landscaping, it should be for perpetuity. So, I don't know, she and I were kind of talking about maybe the village coming up with every 3 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, the fronts of HOAs doing a walkthrough from a village perspective on that retail space. So we're not in year 20 when there's 2 bushes left and there's this really expensive impact that nobody was paying attention to because they didn't want to pay attention to it. And then all of a sudden everybody's scrambling with asking residents to pay more money to get things back to where they always dreamed of living, or for the person that's selling their home in that community and they want as much money as they can get from their sale of their home. And the HOAs are supposed to protect that investment at the onset, and things just fall away. So whatever that conversation needs to be, that's, I guess, the direction that the board is going with all of this. And so go ahead, Danny, that was pretty much the end.
Yeah, no, that's, I was just going to add that I did send Heidi mine and Mike Garrigan's, conversation on it, and it is derived off of the landscape plans are approved as part of the PUD approval. And as part of that is the regulations,
Right,
which per
enforceable,
se,
so you have provisions.
what makes it enforceable for us to go after the HOA to go after it.
Cause she said she didn't see any statutes, she didn't see any.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be in the state statute, it would be, you know, obviously, you approve a plan unit development as part of a project. That project has an improved landscape plan.
Correct.
You have language in that PUD that in perpetuity, as that
Okay.
PUD continues, the association or whoever the proper entity is, they're responsible for maintaining the landscaping and replacing the landscaping.
Which is what I had said to her.
Yeah.
But she was looking for potentially some type of case law or something in addition
I
to.
think she might be wanting something more, I have to look into.
Okay,
If there is anything more, I know that there was comments brought up last night about if the PUD is attached to the annexation expired,
Right.
how much,
Right.
how enforceable is.
Why do you do separate,
Yeah.
that's why you generally try to do separate PUD ordinances, separate apart. You can have an PUD as part of the annexation agreement, but you also separately approve the PUD, so it continues past that 20-year.
so that's the
expiration.
answers she's looking for, and I don't think the attorney that attended last night was as in-depth maybe with the answers as
Right.
you are right now.
So you wanna do that, because villages have been burned, because if it
Yes.
basically after 20 years, the sunset,
Right,
at the end of the annexation agreement, if it's only a part of the annexation agreement, technically that agreement expires.
right, and that's what I said to Heidi.
But if you have a separate ordinance also approving the PUD separately, okay, apart from the annexation, that continues in perpetuity.
So as far as Windsor Point, we'd have to look and see how that one was done exactly, I haven't looked into
Well,
if
so
it's
that's-
attached or if
Mhm.
it's separate.
So that's, it's really, I'm just gonna say tonight, Prairie Glen, Settlers Ridge, there's 2 more that you can add to it. But like I said to her, I go, if the idea is we have all these expectations, to your point, at ribbon cutting, and people are buying into this, because if people weren't buying into the community, beautiful neighborhood entrance, all this other, the parks, everything that's part of a community, 20 years later, we got one bush left, it's just filled with weeds and all the trees are dead. I mean, if it's not enforceable, then what are we doing?
The other challenge you have is, once you sometimes have associations that may have a different philosophy, 10 years or 5, after the fact.
And that's-
they may not agree with that original landscape plan. They may say, hey, this is just too much landscaping or
And
whatever.
that's-
So you
She
have
and I
that
talked
challenge.
about that.
You have that challenge.
So she and I talked about that, so when you, and that's why I said maybe a 3-year or 5-year walkthrough on the village's part to kind of see if that plant material's all dead, because it was too sunny, there was too much water, it was too shady. These are the things that you do. I mean, I was on the board for 7 years in Hannaford, and I can tell you every rose bush died. I mean, there was a million things that died because it was just too much. So, maybe walkthroughs every 5 years, 8 years, 12 years, I don't know what the duration is, but just as a concept, that we're not waiting until year 20 to say, oh, hey, you have an entire landscape to replace because you have one bush left. It's a little more proactive.
Well, in my experience, landscaping is usually overdone and oversold by landscape architects and developers because they wanna sell more bushes. So it tends to, over time, it tends to overgrow, and then it's like, what do we do with this here? So if it's done properly, it might look a little sparse when it's first put in, but then over time it grows and it looks great. To me, where the transition happens is when the developer finishes the homes and turns the development over to the homeowners, and they take control of it, and they get into whether they have a management company or whether the homeowners take over it and get into the dues.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden they're in charge of the dues, and 80% of the homeowners don't wanna pay that, they complain about the dues and how much they are, so you run into that fight. So, it's just the nature of the beast all the time with that.
It is, and that's what Heidi and I were talking about. It's like, do we, we just approved Crown and now additional Lennar and additional spacing with Ryan. And it's like, well, do we want it to be beautiful or do we want there to be 5 bushes? I mean, we have to kind of decide. 20 years from now, what do we want it to look like? Do we want it to be a lot of stone entrances that are bare? Because everyone's like, everyone's jumping for joy to sign on to the HOA board for the first 8 years. And then after that, you can't even, it's like a desolate desert, like anything else. People are like, oh, I don't wanna fight with my neighbors, I don't wanna, whatever. And all of it just gets harder. So that's where the village has to protect itself. And what we expect, what are we going to do about it? Because the people are gonna fall off.
I do see though that some of these developments that have been around 20 years, that it almost looks like a forest instead of a pleasure boulevard, where there's too much trees.
Like
and,
where?
Liberty Street is a good one there by 59, going west towards.
Oh, I thought you were
East.
talking about Sugar Grove.
No,
Oh.
Sugar Grove is way too young.
Okay.
And you get there, and there's, looks like every 3rd tree could be taken out. Because it's just too thick, and it's more of a canopy, and I like to see the trees where the foliage or the umbrella is touching with a few feet in between it, not where the trees are just.
Well, and that, they did that because they could sell more trees.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't grow together,
Right.
they never should, so, yeah. And then you have to end up tearing out half of them because they're choking each other, or choking them off, so.
And the other one like that is the one right there off of Sullivan, to the east side of Orchard when you drive in through there.
Yeah.
A lot of that is grown up. I've seen it where I think the intersection should be back 150 feet each way of the intersection so that you have the sight view. Because even pulling out here, I think there's too many trees here. Because you don't have your sight angles when you're pulling in and out of the intersections. And you catch every once in a while, somebody coming out, walking into the driveway, pulling out of here, because you don't have that clear sight distance.
You're just trim.
I don't know, back to the point of how does a village enforce and it's really hard to get in the middle of it when you have an HOA board that is supposed to manage all that.
But they haven't.
Danny, who does that for you? The temporary, permit person that you have, or is it?
Good job, Bravo.
Bravo, how much time do you have in a given week to devote to that?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult, especially with older subdivisions and especially tracking down plans, landscape plans, and then if I have to go out there and look at stuff, so it's.
Yeah, well, you're catching up to
He's also
20 years
not,
of
yeah,
never
he's
doing
also
that.
not trained in landscaping either,
And then,
so a lot of times.
isn't it the responsibility of the village to do anything, from the sidewalk towards the curb for replacement of trees? Cause we're not allowed to cut them.
No, I don't think the village is responsible to replace them. We offer the 50-50 program if they have to be taken down, but that falls on the
But I'm saying in homes, we turned around and we're told we cannot trim those trees because they're the villages. And so everybody's saying, hey, when the tree comes down, well, the village can replace it. And that's why a lot of people are not replacing it, because they're saying, if I can't maintain it, I'm not going to turn around and replace it. And
I think you got it all wrong.
That's every village.
You all wanna enforce it, you ought to be thinking about incentivizing it.
Well,
Okay?
okay.
That's how you gotta do it, okay?
Right, so-
Because you can't keep telling a home, HOA, that you gotta do this, and it all falls back on the people who live there, and it costs more money,
So-
okay? So there's two things you have to do. You have to sell the idea that everybody's gonna benefit at that HOA, in that residential partial, that they're gonna have, better values, better aesthetics, happier lives. Number two, you're gonna have to incentivize it in some way, okay? Keep it up, and we're gonna give you this. Or we're gonna do this. You figure it out.
I mean, I've been
You
on
figure it
multiple
out.
HOA
But if you're
boards.
gonna go down this road, that you're gonna try to police this, enforce this, number one, nobody sitting here, with the exception of maybe you, Rachel, has any experience
Mhm.
to even be able to tell them what to do, how to do it, when to do it, okay?
Well, as a board member, it's your job.
Then figure out how to incentivize it.
Well, there's really not, it's just a matter of,
No, there
it's a
is.
matter of care.
There's plenty of ways to incentivize it, but no one's thinking about that, because they're only thinking about enforcement.
Well, you think about enforcement when you got 4 bushes left 20 years later.
Well, you know
So,
what?
I mean, it's getting in front of it
Maybe
before that moment.
maybe 15 years ago, people should have started
I mean,
thinking
listen, I
about
was on
this.
Hannaford for 7 years, and Hannaford looks a lot better than most. And, you know, again, I understand the plight of every HOA board, especially with ours, because our bank and the developer went under, everything was on the homeowners. All the prairie, all the retention ponds, the
Right from the
barn,
beginning.
right from the beginning. So I understand that more than anybody. I'm just saying that if you wanna live in an unincorporated community, people have bought into the idea of paying their dues. It is the fiscal responsibility of the board to ensure,
Oh, the HOA, you mean?
correct.
Well, no, I don't dispute that.
And so when the boards, 15 years later, are tired of being board members because they don't wanna deal with their neighbors hating them,
Then you gotta keep them interested.
no, they
You
just.
gotta keep them interested,
Yeah,
yeah,
people
you
just,
do.
people don't
Okay.
wanna sign, we
Well,
couldn't
do you
even,
think they're
we
gonna
couldn't
wanna
even
do
get a, we
it?
couldn't even get a plan commissioner,
Do you think they're gonna wanna do it?
nobody.
If they're thinking about enforcement, and this is the pressure that we're getting on from the village, do you think anybody wants to do that? It's
After
a thankless
20
job.
After
It's a
20
thankless job.
after 20 years.
You gotta approach things differently.
This is where it is after 20 years.
Well, I think there's gonna be plenty of ideas if we all gave it just a little time to flip the narrative from enforcement to incentivizing. And I bet you there'd be,
Love to hear your idea.
well, I'm not saying I have the idea, I haven't
Okay.
thought about it, it's really not my thing, to tell you the truth. But
Well, if
I
we
will
either
say
live
from
in
a
a town,
management standpoint, you can order your people around, and that only works so long before it just blows up and they don't even wanna do it, they don't care about the money, they don't care about anything anymore, they wanna
okay,
be motivated.
Okay.
And right now, you gotta find a way to motivate these HOAs, okay? And generally, that comes from some kind of recognition. Run a competition. Run a
we've already done,
competition
and
before
that's already
that.
done, the village had competition, so we didn't care.
Okay.
So I'm
Well,
just, No, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm just telling you what's really happening. I understand, I'm not saying your
Well-
idea is a bad one, I'm just saying in real time, there's been plenty of this. I mean, for even like the Halloween decorating or the Christmas decorating from a village perspective, you might have 3 people out of, 9,600 people who live here participate. The incentives are not drawing people to care enough. It is your board's fiscal responsibility as part of their meetings, as part of their budgets, to be ensuring that the care of the property that everybody bought into is part of it's part of the budget. And so as things happen, prairies have to be done, burns have to be done, it gets overwhelming. And so
Well-
people just say, we're gonna put that off because we have to do this.
I do know that 60 years ago, Sugar Grove used to work like that. We had sidewalks replaced by contractors who did sidewalks every day, and they got the concrete companies to come out, and they got it at a cut price. That's back when we didn't even have a public works here.
Yeah.
But your idea today, I understand, because nobody wants to get involved, because they think they're already paying for it.
They're already paying for it.
And it should be done.
Yeah.
I've seen it, I've had them come to me, and I says, that's part of your HOA. See, I don't live in an HOA.
Yeah, and I always have, and I love the park, and I love the
Yeah.
community kits, and I love all of that.
But when your taxes have doubled
Oh, I
in the
know.
last 20 years, like they have here, more than
100%.
doubled, okay, then, I think they have a point. They don't wanna do it. They don't wanna do it anymore.
So, okay, so to your point,
Mhm.
anything that comes in front of us, forget the landscape package. Nobody's ultimately gonna take care of it, and we don't wanna enforce it. So which way do we
Well,
wanna do it?
Danny, what
I
happens-
don't agree
can
that, how well does enforcement work to this point?
Can
Nobody's
an
ever
HOA
done it.
just go away?
I would assume they
Yeah,
could
it's
dissolve it.
Yeah, this out.
Yeah, and then the village takes over,
Right.
and then they bill everybody,
Not
and
technically.
the village doesn't want it.
No, I mean, the village passes what you call dormant special service areas, which basically
SSAs.
which will basically take care, will tax the residents who live in that subdivision.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, that will never happen.
That's
Okay,
nightmare.
okay, so even if the HOA goes away, there's still, something in place to replace it.
Yes, the municipality will take care of it, and how well do you think that'll look? And
Well,
and you're probably paying more,
Well,
cause you're paying wages,
no,
prevailing wage.
I understand all that, because I used to work on the
Right.
public works side.
Right.
And, no, thing is though, the people in their community have to be part of the overall HOA. They can't look at the HOA as being, the members that are making the decisions. It's gotta be a community coming together.
I love that, but it's just.
I understand,
reality.
and the
Yeah.
problem is, it's like these meetings here, I would've thought the people from, the subdivision, this is up against, I would've thought they'd have been here tonight.
They don't even, probably know.
They don't even care.
No, I don't know if they don't care, I just think that people are busy.
No, by the time they care, it's too late.
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
And what I'm saying is, you gotta make time now. And if you can't make time now for this, and then you know all the problems you're going to have later, it would've been nice to have these folks talking tonight, well, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see
Yeah.
that. And if you can't get them there, I damn well know you're not gonna get them at your
Well,
HOA.
I can tell you at Windsor Point, because I lived there for 7 years and I have a lot of good friends that still live there. There's a good amount of people that have complained to the board about their entrances. And they're in this tough spot with having a lot of fiscal responsibility, people are struggling. It is the same everywhere. So I'm saying to all of us, with anything that comes in front of us, what do we wanna approve? With this understanding, in 15 years, it might have to go back to the village.
To be quite honest with you, if I had my way, there'd be a lot less landscaping out in the parkways. Because I think there's too much. And I think it's very important in today's times that that the retail, commercial, and business are open so that when they go by, the police can turn around and see what's going on.
I'm a animals gal, so I like my birds and I like my
Right.
animals and, so I'm not looking for a desolate space of
But
nothingness.
I do know when they come to Orchard Road, that's the first thing they did, they wanted to pile all the trees, but then you got all the banks. 3 of the banks on them corners have been rocked, because it was
has a lot more to do than a tree problem, but.
Well, no, but when you have, no visibility of seeing what's there, the retailers on Montgomery over in Douglas had the same problem with their restaurant. They had to come in and take all the high trees that blocked the whole restaurant. And now it's all the bushes. And-
Anyways, I bring this up because it was a conversation at last night's board meeting, and I think that if we want people to move into our town, this is my belief, and spend $400,000 to $700,000 on starter homes or second homes, to have one bush and everything else weeds, I mean, that's just not, I mean, I wouldn't buy there. So if I think that about myself, I guess my expectation would be somebody else is probably gonna skip us.
I'm
You
gonna
just
say.
answered your own question.
Right.
Let the market figure it out.
Yeah, because here's the thing, somebody that's going to do that is going to want to keep their place up. They're gonna want to be part of that HOA to
But
make
for
sure
my
that.
$24,000 a year that I pay in taxes, I have an expectation in my municipality.
Yeah, but they can only do so much because.
But they haven't done anything.
No,
Until now.
it's not their problem to take care of an HOA who says, I want to control what I have.
Well, but they
Because-
have a secondary issue.
No,
But
see-
if you're not taking care of it, the village takes it over as an SSA.
Right, but the thing is, why should the village take over something that, technically isn't theirs to deal with because you have a board that's there?
You're totally right. But when they don't do what they're supposed to.
No, because you've got a board that's there,
They
and that
didn't
board
do
is.
what they were supposed to.
Well, no, in your eyes, they didn't do what they were supposed
No, based on the PUD, based on what was approved.
to. Well, then, here's what it comes to, when you come to re-elect those folks, that's when you turn around and you vote them out, and you put the people in that you.
Listen,
But
I'm
this
just
is
trying to
what-
get to the
but
resolution
you're
of the
coming-
original acceptance of
But-
what we ever, at some point, a plan commission approved these projects.
But if they're not doing their job, then that's where you're trying to get clarification from the village on what are the legal ramifications, right?
Right.
That's what the whole thing boils down to.
It is.
Yeah.
And then if there is nothing, then as plan commissioners, when projects come in front of us, if we know municipalities are not set up to police these things, what do we wanna do and approve? Knowing in 20 years, you're gonna have one bush left.
Well, you turn around and you would still approve, and you hope that those people that are coming along are going to turn around and feel the same way you do and take care of it.
I don't know.
You know, as a municipality, you don't, it's not realistic to try to enforce it, other than the agreements that are made, okay? And there's two sides to the agreement, and there's your side and there's their side. If they don't wanna live up to their side, okay, there may be some ramifications, consequences to that can be legally done. But at the end of the day, whoever, I don't care what development it is, if it goes to crap because there's only one bush and all weeds.
Yep.
Okay, they're gonna pay the commercial consequence to that,
Well, not
okay?
just
You
that.
let the market drive it.
I was told that, the HOA is supposed to put a lien against the homeowner, and then, you tax them on that, and you fix it, and then
The
you tax
HOAs
it.
don't have the money to be leaning everybody.
Well, see, the village doesn't either, because it's
Exactly.
taken,
I'm just telling you.
it's taken
I
Bravo
understand.
Right.
and them away from what they're normally
I
doing.
understand.
And it's not the village's place to.
No, it is because they required it at the beginning.
Right, but see, the thing.
No, that is the thing.
No, I understand, but it comes to the point that they're believing that the HOA is the one that's gonna take care of it.
That is the agreement.
Right,
And somebody didn't keep up their side of the agreement.
right, and,
Where they don't have the money.
Well,
I
the
know.
list is
So,
long,
you know-
including the municipality.
If you don't have the money to put a new roof on and you put your house up for sale, okay, that's gonna come off the sale of the house. Okay, you're gonna pay for it one way or another. So if they don't wanna do it, they're gonna pay that consequence, okay? Just because you and me may not be happy with the way it looks right now, doesn't mean that the market shouldn't still make the final decisions. So, market's bigger than you and I always will be. We have
I
no
mean,
control
people are
over it.
voted in and pay dues every single year for a set of standards. So return everybody's money, don't even have HOAs if we're thinking like this. Because then people can do whatever they want, nobody cares, and nobody has to enforce.
I do know when, the HOA had problems down at Mallard Point.
Oh, that's a whole nother
No,
conversation.
no, but what I'm saying, that ended up causing a whole stir throughout the whole town, because a lot of people said, why is the village getting involved in something that belongs to them? And I said, well, folks, you gotta get back into that whole story, and I understand how come the village got into that one.
The village got into that one because they
Right.
approved something they shouldn't have approved from the
Well,
Army Corps of
I
Engineers.
Well,
don't
that's what-
believe there's any HOA at Mallard.
No,
There's not.
the
No,
village,
Live
and
there.
that's why.
That's why I moved there.
Yeah, but back in the day, there was an HOA because of all of the
20
flooding
years ago.
problems. And it was dissolved because the HOA could not afford to pay for all of the problems that the village approved. So,
I've never been a big.
that's why it was dissolved in the village case,
Never been a big one of an HOA.
which is fine. And
No,
nobody has to-
No,
you're not. It's
I'm.
individual.
You're
Right, so if you're not, but if you are a fan of an HOA, it is set up to work in a specific way.
No, exactly, and each one is different, because.
Okay, so if we respect one, then we respect the other.
No, what I'm saying is, some have different preferences than others have. Some are just maintaining the, open areas, some are maintaining, what you can do to paint your house, what color it has to be done, and then what kind of door you
Yes, the
put in.
nuances are different in all of them, but the basics are the same.
Right, but I would find that people are having problems with their HOAs on what type of window I can put in.
Yeah, but this is different.
I understand,
Yeah, this is-
you're coming from the aesthetics part of it.
No, I'm coming from a plan commission perspective, like if we're approving projects that are coming in front of us, is there an expectation?
I see what you're saying, but as I look at it, I'm approving what I believe is going to go straight forward until I'm proven wrong by another developer.
And 20 years later, we're seeing that they didn't uphold
I don't know if that's within our control though, or,
It's
you know.
not.
the villages. Oh, the village has control over it, we do not.
Yeah, right.
We have control, so that's the conversation, how much should the village be doing? And as plan commissioners, understanding that they don't wanna do a lot, or can't, or don't have the resources, do we
But-
wanna approve all this lush and beautiful?
But again,
Not so
all of
much.
that isn't our problem, that comes back to the village president and what the village board wants to do.
Okay, well, it is their problem, it's all of our problems, cause we're approving the project and then we're saying,
It's
but
a-
don't worry about maintaining it.
We're not saying that.
In
No.
20 years, it's
We're
not
not
worth
saying
it.
don't worry about it, okay?
Well, I
You're,
mean,
you're trying to control things that are way out of your control. And I'm sorry, but 20 years from now,
yeah,
you can't tell somebody now, well, you don't even know what it's gonna be like 5 years from now. You don't know what the economy's gonna be like, you don't know any of these variables.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reality is, okay, the market will dictate what people do, okay? They're going to, when they have money, they're gonna keep their house nice. If they don't have money, they're not going to. because
well,
they
this
can't.
isn't the house, this is the HOA.
No, I know, but it's still, it's all part of it. It's their lawns, it's their bushes, it's this and that, and,
But if you pay your money every year to an organization that has a responsibility fiscally to take care of those things, are you okay with that?
I'm not, I'm
So
not
that's
pro, I'm anti-HOA.
Okay, so for those of us that are pro, there is a responsibility.
Well, I get it, and for those of you who are pro, I get it, but
Okay.
this is a planning commission, okay? Gotta be, you know, it's
But these are
not one or the other.
HOAs, these are HOAs coming in front of us.
I don't think we can like assume that they're gonna not take care
Right,
of
you
stuff
can't.
though.
You can't,
Yeah.
that's
Well, we're 20
presidential.
Yeah, but this is a 20-year, we're at year 20 or
No,
25.
I understand what you're
And so if you
saying.
drive to the majority of these communities or retail, there's massive gaps of responsibility.
I get what you're saying, I just don't think we can assume that new developers coming forward are not gonna take
No,
care of it
no, no.
and like.
But if we see that 20 years later that the ones that have been here haven't, is it safe for us to assume that the new ones coming in won't either?
But see, it's
And that burden falls on the village.
It's my understanding that a developer relinquishes their responsibility to their development upon 80% completion of that.
That's correct.
So at that point, they've met their obligation before they get their sign-offs, they turn around and, they have to make sure that all the trees and that, so they've met their obligation.
Yes.
Now that turns over to the HOA.
Correct, and in theory, that 80% is enough money to cover the expenditures. Okay, so anyway, that was Heidi and I's conversation, and, you know, it
It's a good
sounds
one.
like,
I think it should be still points of discussion between the rest of the village, just to see if there's, I don't think we wanna dumb down our standards
Right.
for that, but I think we have to figure, between us and the rest of the village, we need to figure out how can it be better enforced?
It
Well,
was
and
a-
that's just it.
How do
I
we
mean,
do
less
that?
responsibility on the village.
It was a nice discussion.
Well, yeah, I think, yeah, I would agree that, keep our standards high, but, recognize that the recipient has a responsibility. And for how long that recipient maintains that responsibility is somewhat not in our control. Okay, now you can enforce things to a certain extent, but if there's no water in the well, you can enforce it all you want. Now, some of these HOAs are forced with making a decision, do we do an infrastructure
Yeah,
expenditure,
Everybody.
or do we
Oh.
take that money to,
yes.
okay, so, it's not that they're all bad and not
They're not
living
all
up to
bad,
their
100%.
obligations,
I was part of
so,
that.
I
That's
mean.
not what I'm implying. I'm trying to get to a conversation,
Well, you
a
are, if
potential
you're looking to
resolution.
enforce them to do something that they don't have the fiscal resources to do.
22 years later, it falls somewhere. That's the conversation. It falls somewhere after 22, 25 years. Does it fall somewhere? Everybody signed-
I don't think it does, but
Well,
that's,
that- so,
I understand.
To
where
your
you're going.
point, then we shouldn't be approving PUDs and not landscaping.
That's not my point at all. That's not my point at all. You're
Okay.
twisting it,
I think we-
but I get it.
I think we beat this up enough tonight.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good.
Alright, any other comments, not talking about
Yeah,
what we just talked about?
Right.
Are we good?
Any
Yes.
future developments coming in?
No public here, so no public comment.
No,
I'd
not
like
this
a motion
time.
for adjournment.
I second that.
All right, roll call. Bob Eric, not here. John Koya,
Aye.
John Goodorf.
Aye.
Rachel Rockwell.
Aye.
Carrie Ann Kubina.
Yes.
John Beards, yes. We are, meeting is adjourned.
Nice.
7:16.